Hello and welcome to this, where I'm going to talk to you about the personal sleep strategy session and what it is, right? Because a lot of people will ask me, what are we doing? And maybe some people aren't asking me because they're not sure what we're going to be doing in a personal strategy session. So this is a deep dive into what is going to happen if you book a personal strategy session with me. So before we even try and fix anything, the very first place that we need to start is understanding what is actually going on with your sleep, right? So where is the issue with your sleep? What does it look like to you? And often when people come to me, they've already tried or felt like they've tried everything. So they've had, the sleep hygiene, supplements, advice from everybody, and still is waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and can't get back to sleep again and is feeling terrible the next day. Some people also come to me, which is so upsetting, thinking that they are broken, right? That sleep just isn't going to happen for them. They can't sleep. There's something wrong with them and they're broken. What I'm here to tell you is none of those things are relevant, right, to this sleep strategy session, because we're going to be looking directly at you and your sleep. And if you haven't figured out yet what's happening with your sleep and why, often it's because you haven't found the right lever, right? So the right thing for you, the thing that's going to really move the needle. And that's exactly what this session is about. So when most people arrive, they've tried already some of this, sometimes all of this. So supplementation, massive. Loads of people talk about supplements, and you will have heard it before. Magnesium, melatonin, CBD, valerian, different sleep blends. And some people are spending so much money on these supplements. Now, for some people, they work great, right? Really, really great. And that's enough. And that's kind of, you hear this stuff. I hear this stuff all the time. Take magnesium and it's completely changed my life. And I'm able to sleep well now. And that is amazing for those people. But if it hasn't worked for you, it's not because there's anything wrong with you. It's that you probably don't need the additional magnesium, right? As simple as that. You need something else. Apps and devices like tracking sleep, having white noise playing in the background whilst you sleep, meditating before going to sleep, Fitbits, Aura rings, you wake up, you look at your sleep score, what is it? A lot of these things actually are unhelpful for sleep. So I always say, think of trackers, right? So if you're trying to lose weight, the weighing scales do not make you lose weight. They're just a way of checking in to see if the stuff that you're doing is making a difference. It's exactly what sleep tracking does, right? Use it if you want to as a tool to check in and see. It's not something to be feeling stressed about. You don't need to perform when you sleep. None of that, none of the scores define you and define your sleep, right? So just want to really reassure you about that. And white noise can be helpful for some people, particularly if they're quite sensitive to noise changes throughout the night. Bedtime routines, this is a biggie, right? So, have a bath, get some lavender. People are dousing themselves in lavender. They're having a bath every single night. They're coming away from their phones 2 hours before the time in which they should be going to sleep. They're trying to keep a really fixed bedtime, right? Trying to go to bed at exactly the same time every day. And often, again, this can create pressure. And then what happens on that night when something happens and you can't do the bedtime routine? Automatically, you're thinking, right, I'm not going to sleep tonight. Or you're doing all this stuff and you're still not sleeping. Because the bedtime routine is something that we put in after we've found the thing that's causing your sleep issue. Caffeine and cutting things out. This is massive. Massive. Somebody came to me only yesterday to say, I've stopped drinking coffee. I don't drink it at all anymore. And I was like, okay, so why have you done that? But just in case it's going to impact my sleep. Caffeine could impact your sleep, right? But often not in the morning. the rule of thumb with caffeine, try and avoid it about 8 hours before you go to sleep. If you're feeling tired, caffeine can be a really helpful tool to give you some kind of energy and alertness. So you don't need to cut it out completely. Again, it brings this kind of pressure and this stress that, well, if it's not the coffee, then what is it? Right? That's where your brain goes to when you cut it out. Alcohol as well. So we know that alcohol impacts on sleep. But it doesn't mean you never have to drink alcohol again, right? It's more about making that conscious, informed decision about drinking alcohol and does it outweigh the sleep impacts that it has? You don't need to stop drinking alcohol altogether, okay? And this kind of rearrangement of the whole day, not going to things because you're not going to be back in time to do your bedtime routine. I often talk about having like a silver, gold, bronze kind of routine based thing. So you've got some real basics and then you've got a bit more if you've got time to do it. And then this gold standard bedtime routine can be something that can sit there that you really want to, you really enjoy, you really want to do, but you don't need to do it all the time. But lots of people are rearranging their whole days around sleep and kind of pulling back from other things in case it impacts their sleep. You don't need to think about sleep in that way. Sleep is the same as breathing, right? We all will do it. We all have to do it. But it's the pressure and the noise around sleep, I believe, at the moment that's making it feel worse. Now, you've probably been to see a doctor. A doctor may well have spoken to you about stress levels, etc. And you're sent away often without any answers and usually not with any kind of signpost on where to go next, which is really sad. But, you know, at the moment, sleep isn't recognized as one of those underpinning tools within, you know, NHS guidelines. There's very few sleep services around, so there's actually nowhere for doctors to refer you on to. Sometimes you're offered medication, and that might be medication that's used for different things to kind of help you to feel more sedated or relaxed in the evening. Self-help and research. So if you've got a sleep issue, no doubt you've read some of the books, you've been on Google or ChatGPT to find out about this and what I should try. And the advice that you're getting back is generic, right? Maybe even YouTube. You might have heard of CBTI. A lot of people get confused about CBTI and what it is, but it's cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, different to CBT. And you may well be trying to fix it alone. Now, I'm going to name it here, but sleep often is associated with a level of shame because it is something that we should be able to do naturally. People often feel shameful when they're not sleeping, and we really need to change that. Relaxation and mindfulness. So you might be doing yoga nidra every day. You may be listening to sleep stories before you go to sleep, doing some breath work in the evening, progressive muscle relaxation. All of these things have a place, but they're often not going to be enough to completely change your sleep schedule. There's a lot of biology behind sleep. So these things can be helpful when they're used at the right time, in the right way, and at the right place for you as an individual. And you may be trying to sleep more. This is so, so common. So I'm going to give you a quick kind of guide into what that's doing, because I think this is one of the most helpful pieces of information that you can have. So what I see a lot in practice, and I work one-to-one with people all the time, okay? So what I see in practice is somebody falls asleep, let's say at 11 o'clock, okay? And then wake up in the night at maybe 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And their alarm is set for the person that they want to be, right? So it's set for 5:30 or 6. They wake up at this 2, 3 a.m. and they're awake for an hour and a half. And then you start thinking, okay, I'm going to change my alarm because actually that was for the person that I want to be, but I could sleep an extra hour and a half in the morning. So I'm going to switch that up and change it to 7 o'clock and really push it because I'm not going to be able to get back to sleep for an hour or so. So I need to add it on in the morning. This causes mass confusion, right, to the circadian rhythm, because what the body kind of, if it could talk, right, and tell you, it's like, well, does it matter if you miss that sleep in the night? Because we can make up for it. So it doesn't matter. And then what can happen is we then start this kind of snowball effect where it starts happening more and more frequently. Okay. So why does this work? Why me? Okay. There's many sleep coaches, sleep practitioners out there. So I personally have spent the last 27 years working with the human nervous system on some levels. For 12 years, I worked in mental health industry with people with learning difficulties, in kind of acute psychiatric wards, and I did lots of telephone support, all different things, mostly while I was doing my nurse training. Then in 2011 came along this kind of training course around sleep. And I was like, oh, this piqued my interest. Went and did it. Loved it. Loved every minute of it. Started to work with people with sleep. I could see, oh my God, the difference that this makes. And I've spent the last 15 years specializing in sleep. I cannot imagine sleep ever not being a part of my life. Not in the physical sense, because of course it will be, but part of my professional life. I'm so passionate about this. I love what I do. I'm a CBTI trained now, which is the gold standard in insomnia treatment. Again, the successes from this are phenomenal, so phenomenal. So yeah, I do CBTI. I have had insomnia myself. I've had it on 3 separate occasions. Once when I didn't work in sleep, it was a nightmare. The second time I did work in sleep, it was still a nightmare. The third time was post-surgery, and I then became a CBTI therapist. So I really leaned into this kind of CBTI training, kept getting up at the same time every morning. Within 4 days, the insomnia had gone. So I have gone through insomnia myself. I know how it feels, and it is debilitating. It really is awful. Now, I termed something that I do in every day as a rapid decode process, right? So what this means is, because I've been doing this for such a long time, and I think working with people for such a long time, when I've got somebody in front of me, albeit on a screen, I can ask usually a couple of questions, and I'm like, that's where it is. That's where the lever is. And that normally comes within the first kind of 5 or 10 minutes of the assessment. So rapidly, I know exactly where our starting point's going to be, and then kind of move on from that. So I've just termed that coin, but that's what it means, that I can rapidly decode, problem solve your sleep, what's happening, why it's happening, and then we've got a starting point. So if you come to a personal sleep strategy session with me, I ask a couple of things from you, right? So what I ask from you is that you show up with an open mind, right? So we will find a way to resolve your sleep issues, so long as you're open. Some of the things that I suggest, you might think, I don't know how that works. But if you're open, you'll see it working. Tell me what you've actually tried. So not what you think I want to hear. Okay. So I don't care if you're on your phone until the last minute that you fall asleep. Right? I don't care. Don't care about anything that you're doing. I don't care about anything that you've tried, be it as crazy as it needs to be. I don't care about any of that. But what I do care about is, how did that make you feel? Did it make a difference at all? Or didn't it make a difference? And why didn't it make a difference? Because that really helps me to formulate a plan that's going to work for you, because I know what type of person you are. I know how open you are to ideas. Trust that simple is not the same as easy to find. Okay. So it is simple to find it. It's not always easy to push through it. Right. And if something lands for you, and we'll find that thing that lands for you, right? That's my ultimate job, is finding that thing where you go, do you know what? Actually, yeah, this makes sense. I'm going to give it a go. Commit to trying it. I only ever ask that you try something for 7 days. Try it for 7 days. Does it make any difference at all? And then we can review. What I promise you is that I'm going to listen for the clues, not just the answers. Okay. I'm not going to give you a generic plan ever. I will identify the most important lever, and I will explain why it's important, how it works, and how we can change it to make a difference to your sleep. You're going to leave with clarity. You're going to leave with confidence. You're going to leave feeling reassured. and no more overwhelm. Don't want anyone to feel overwhelmed about sleep. So what's going to actually happen in the session is, so like I said, we're going to talk about the things that you've tried before. So we map out kind of where you've been. So we don't want to send you back to places you've been before, unless I'm really convinced it's going to make a difference, right? But we don't want to send you back there. So we need to know everything on the table, where you are right now. So what do your sleep patterns look like? What's your wake up time, anxiety levels, what you're doing during the day? We're looking at the full systems, the full 24 hours, not just the nighttime. I actually start with the daytime. What does your life look like? So what's your mental load like? What are your rhythms like? How does your day flow? Let's see what context is happening within each and every day. Sleep is often driven by the daytime, so that's where we start. So I would then identify the levers, and that's looking more at the biology. So looking at things like sleep pressure, circadian rhythm, your mental load. So I'm going to be listening for clues that I think, I think this is the main lever. This is what's driving this sleep issue. And then we build a personal plan that's going to work for you, not generic. So you'll receive that from me afterwards. And I'll give you like a format of where you start. I'll also give you kind of the next steps, what you should be doing next and for how long. It's a really, what's the word I'm looking for? Thorough plan that makes sense, not written in clinical terms, written in the way that we converse with each other. What most people are getting wrong when looking at sleep is because almost everything that people talk about, with the very best interests, I really want to state that, right? People have got really great interests when it comes to sleep, but often it's focused on the wrong thing. And certainly if you're at a position where you're still not sleeping, it's been the wrong thing for you. So what does the mainstream say? What are the things that I keep hearing? So have a set bedtime. Our days are anchored by the morning. And I talk a lot about this on my socials. Please do go and have a look for sleep pressure and circadian rhythm, because I talk a lot about that. If we fix our morning time, this anchors the rest of the day. So what happens when we fix the morning time is our sleep pressure builds when it hits its peak. That's what sends us to sleep, keeps us asleep. If you've got a fixed morning 7 days a week, what will happen is your pressure will be building from the same time, which means your bedtime will become apparent, right? So you don't start there, you start here, and then that becomes apparent. You'll see what kind of time you fall into sleep. So you don't have to fix anything apart from the morning, which you've got way more control over because you can't force yourself to go to sleep, right? You can force yourself to wake up. Creating rigid evening routines. So doing X, Y, and Z every single night. The circadian rhythm loves routine, loves it, but it's not like I need 2 hours from you of doing all of these different things. That's not how it works. It's more about thinking about like, how do you relax and unwind? What makes you feel, relaxed? Do those things in the evening. Following the same schedule every night. So that's what mainstream is going to tell you. Like I say, I use things like the bronze, silver, gold standards of bedtime routine. So we're following some kind of schedule, but a schedule that works for you on each and every day. We need to be able to understand the system. We need to understand how everything works. And when we understand it, sleep follows, like naturally, easily, because it is a biological process fundamentally. Most people will try sleep hygiene first, so we'll put the kind of emphasis on that evening routine. I'm going to tell you, no, we'll go back to the morning. We don't even think about that in the early stages. Start with the morning. And if everything else fails, then you're looking at ways to medicate, supplement, that kind of thing. I'm also looking at your mental load, your nervous system. How safe do you feel? Because that matters as much as the biology as well. And like I say, you cannot force yourself to go to sleep. You can only create space for sleep to occur, right? It isn't a doing. We don't do sleep, right? It happens to us. So what you'll get from me is a sleep diary before the session. I much prefer it if you were to book a personal strategy session and to do it like 7 days after you've started with the sleep diary, because we're going to start from a really great place that's really hard to remember when you're not sleeping well. It's hard to remember what happened on each and every day. The sleep diary is going to give a great baseline. I'll listen for that root cause. I'll identify the root cause and I'll tell you what the root cause is. And that happens usually, like I say, within the first kind of 10 minutes. You'll get that full written summary that will give you the steps to do now, why you're doing them, and then that's all written in plain English. And then you'll get the next kind of step. Then I've also got a sleep compression tool, which is an online tool. And if that's relevant to you and your sleep issues, then you'll get that as well, that you can download onto your mobile devices. Also, I have an AI. So this AI is completely trained on my methodology. I'm going to post a separate video if you want to find out more about Kerry AI. But this is to offer kind of ongoing support between sessions, or even just to keep following the plan that you've got. And then we have optional 15-minute follow-ups. So it's not the £97 for each session. The follow-ups never need more than kind of 15 minutes. If we do, I have got a 30-minute option, but 15 minutes is usually enough to have a look. Where are we at with the lever? What's the next thing that we need to do? So it's, for me, it's all about, we haven't got lots of time. Most of us are really time poor. So how do we get this to work and get this to work within your life? So let's just take stock of all of that. So in 45 minutes, here's what's going to change for you. So your root cause is going to be identified. You're going to know why you're not sleeping, right? You're going to have a lever that you can pull, that you can start with, that's going to make a difference to your sleep. You're going to have a written plan that you can action, starting from that day, the tools that are matched exactly to your sleep and your sleep needs, and ongoing support in place, whether that's either via the Kerry AI or whether it is through 15-minute check-ins, whatever you think is going to work for you. One more thing that I want to show you and how to get started. So it's £97, 45 minutes, one plan, no overwhelm. Kerry AI sits as part of an ecosystem. So it's called the Sleep Fixer Circle, right? So within that, there's different training materials, there's meditations, there's all of the tools, and you get a month of that for free. It's usually £27 a month. So you book your session, you get your month in Circle, you come to me with your diary, and then we work out what's going on with your sleep. That's all about the personal sleep strategy session. So I hope it's given you enough information. You can always drop me an email and I'll respond if you've got any questions or anything that you want to ask me about it. But I'm here to help you get back to the thing that you should have been doing easily forever. Like my whole ethos on sleep. Do you know, the thing that I love most, like with the clients that I work with, that by the end of our session or sessions, it's not this big woohoo, I'm sleeping, it's more, oh my God, life just feels so much easier now. And that is exactly the place that I want every single person that I come into contact with to be in. So it's, making sleep feel easy, be automated, something that you don't have to think about anymore. Thank you.